Welcome, everyone, to our Tuesday, May the 23rd, 2023 session in our series on entrepreneurship in Asian high-tech industries. I'm Richard Dasher. I direct the U.S. Asia Technology Management Center at Stanford. We're very pleased to produce this series, and we do so with the financial support of our member companies. So their names were shown on the slides before the meeting started, but we want to express our deep appreciation to them, without whose support we couldn't do anything. At any rate, I'm delighted that we kind of follow up last week where we had some Japanese entrepreneurs who are active in Silicon Valley with a session on non-Japanese entrepreneurs, foreign entrepreneurs who are active in Japan. And to lead this session, our speaker from Japan from last year is coming back, Ms. Shiho Watabe, who is a Stanford alum, is now the CEO of Shibuya Startups Kabushiki Kaisha, meaning incorporated. So a company has been formed since she spoke for us last year. And she will be telling us about how Shibuya Startups is supporting foreign companies coming into Japan. And, also a couple of foreign entrepreneurs who are very actively involved in Japan and will very probably be involved with Shibuya Startups. But since these kind of things take a long time to all get all the contracts signed and everything, today our guests, speakers, Gen Woods and Tania Koch, are independent of Shibuya Startup. They are coming in just as foreign entrepreneurs who are active in Japan. So let me give kind of a brief introduction to Shiho and ask her to take the reins. Shiho, after graduating from Stanford, went to work for Morgan Stanley for a couple of years and then was hired by Google, first in Tokyo, and then she was transferred to London, and then she came to headquarters here in Mountain View and stayed with them for a number of years. From Google, she went to become the senior director of marketing for a Japanese e-commerce company here actively in the United States, Mercari. And then she has advised a number of startup companies and held positions in several startup companies before becoming an advisor to Shibuya, which is her hometown. Tokyo actually is a metropolitan area, and so Shibuya is one of 23 cities inside this giant metropolitan area of Tokyo. So Shiho gets to go home and work actively now to help foreign entrepreneurs move into Japan. Shiho, I think it's time for me to turn over the microphone to you. Thanks so much for coming in today.
Well, thank you for the intro. Hi, everyone. I'm Shiho, and I'm the CEO of Shibuya Startups KK. Thanks for having me today. Okay, this is my second time being here. Last year, I was here as an advisor to Shibuya city government, and I discussed what the city does to support startups. And I think you can find my video on the YouTube channel. Since 2020, Shibuya City has done a lot to providing resources to global startups. They did this through a program called Shibuya Startup Support. This initiative was well recognized, so the city partnered with external investors to double down on the efforts. And earlier this year, Shibuya Startups KK was incorporated, and I was appointed as the CEO, and I just started the work in April. This is the photo from the press conference in February. In the photo, you see me standing next to the leadership team from GMO Internet, Tokyo Land, Tokyo Corp, and the mayor. And they're the investors of my company. In April, we launched a program called Up by Shibuya Startup Support. Through this accelerator program, we hope to create a global startup community in the city. Moving on. So this slide tells you what we do. We're backed by Shibuya City and Japan's leading corporations that I just introduced. As I mentioned, the city has provided a visa program, free office space, and other services like English accounting and legal services, and bank account support in order to set companies up in Japan. And this new company, our company, will add growth support, including POC, partnerships, go-to-market strategy, hiring help, and PR. We welcome applications from startups tackling areas that Japan is uniquely known for, such as the aging of society, anime, game, IPs, earthquakes, tourism, and street fashion and street culture. Okay. So it has been a month and a half since we launched, and so far, so good. We have not gone through all the applications yet, but we have learned a few things from the selection process. We're mainly attracting entrepreneurs from Asia, US, and Europe. So far, roughly a little bit less than half of the applicants are from Asia, and around 1/3 is from the US, and around a little bit less than the US, like I would say 25% from Europe. Yeah, the reasons for applying are quite interesting. Together with our visa program, we have collected data on what people are looking for and where people came from and why they came to Japan. And we're getting a number of founders from Taiwan, Hong Kong, mainland China, who are now looking to move to Japan for a reason loosely related to the current geopolitical landscape. Some founders from Korea or Southeast Asia found the large, highly monetizable population in Japan attractive. Like Japanese people pay more money for the same product, is what some of the founders mentioned. And Web3 companies from the US and Europe mentioned the turmoil in the industry has not hit Japan as hard as the rest of the world. So they just wanted to move to Japan to keep on growing. And naturally, many of our applicants are generative AI companies at the moment. I hear many of these startups are attracted to Japan because the data is abundant in certain sectors, and Japan copyright regulation allow better access to those data, and the competition is lower here compared to the US or China. So that makes a great environment and timing for application-driven AI startups to enter Japan. We're also learning what the founders need in Japan. It varies from company to company. We heard things like market entry research, strategy consultations, hiring support, POC, B2B partnerships, and investment at early stage. So we hope to keep building services based on the founders' needs as we go along. Next slide. Okay. Introducing some of the startups that we're welcoming into our program soon. I have to note that the admission is rolling basis, so the list is quite dynamic. And actually, we're at the final review with 7 more companies to add to this list. So keep that in mind when you see this. We have 2 age tech companies on the slide. Tellus. Tania's here, so I will skip the explanation of the business, but they are improving elder care with cutting-edge AI technology. Camino is another AI-powered age tech company solving the problem in senior mobility. Camino captures 22 different gait metrics for every step. From this data, they hope to predict full risk and the onset of medical conditions for early interventions. We're onboarding 3 generative AI companies from the US and Singapore. We have PixArt and G8 Glove on the slide. The last one is missing because we're still in the midst of the onboarding process. well, text to image, text to movie, text to music, home to music. Japanese entertainment industry has a lot to offer. And we have two Web3 companies on the slide. Gen is here today, so I'll skip the detailed explanation of what the business does, but they get companies and trends on Web3. They focus on fashion, music, and sports verticals. Totemo Art is a Web3 platform connecting street artists and the fan community. Harajuku neighborhood in Shibuya is globally known among street artists and their fans. Totemo captures the street art in NFT. We just got started, so there is a lot we're excited to tackle from now on. For recruiting startups, we're open to referrals and applications on a rolling basis. Please apply from our website. And hiring, for building the team, we're hiring, and please check out open positions on our website. For building a startup ecosystem, we're looking for partners. Partners can be accelerators, investors, incubators whose startups need help in Japan. And we're also looking for big corporations in Japan to partner with. And we also welcome mid to late stage startups who want to hire us for consultation. Okay, so this was my last slide, and I will introduce the founders who are here today. Gen is the CEO and co-founder of Callback. They're based in Japan and have been working with Shibuya City on a few projects already. Tania is the CEO and co-founder of Tellus. They're based in Bay Area and they have been active in Japan. I would like to thank them for joining me today and sharing what they do and insights from working with the Japanese market. With that, I will pass on the mic to Gen.
Cool. So I am Gen. I'm one of the co-founders of Callback, and we are a Web3 platform for communities, and we're entirely based in Japan, team of 11 at the moment. And our mission is to help communities put their experiences onto the blockchain. Before I sort of dive into what we do, it's probably helpful to explain and share how we're thinking about Web3 and why it's important. But we see it as the future of participation, primarily because of the underlying technology, which is tokens on a blockchain. And I guess tokens on a blockchain unlock these three very powerful ideas. The first of which is that you can reward participation with tokens in a really diverse range of scenarios and situations, both online and offline. And then you can verify that participation at scale. The second is interoperability and the fact that these tokens can be interoperable in different ecosystems, which basically means you can reward participation in one ecosystem and another ecosystem very seamlessly. And then lastly is the idea of true ownership. And so the tokens that you own are truly your own. You can take them with you anywhere on the internet because they are platform agnostic. So this is sort of how we're thinking about Web3. And we've had a lot of interest from communities, sort of artists, and then large brands in Japan to put their experiences onto the blockchain. But it's quite a non-trivial task. So we try to provide an end-to-end platform to help communities here put their experiences onto the blockchain. And our platform sort of comprises three main areas, the first of which is the software, which is the factory. And it's our no-code portal to create, distribute, and manage your NFTs. And then for more bespoke projects and for enterprise, we provide consulting and hands-on strategy. And then sort of the last component is sort of unique to this space, but we have our own official community, which is the Yeti community. And each person who is a member has a unique Yeti, and this is their access pass to our community. This is our way to sort of engage and keep people engaged that we've worked with, and also sort of onboard new people that want to learn about the space. So we've worked in the last 9 months, we've worked with over 30 different sort of leading brands in Japan. Some highlights here include Suntory. Recently for Bright Moments, they provided a really interesting bar experience where based on the drinks that you chose, you would be able to have an on-chain drink ticket that would update dynamically. And the idea here was that based on your experience at this bar, you would be able to walk away with a unique item. And this would be sort of a keepsake, but at the same time, also proof of participation at the event. And it's sort of kicking off Suntory's Web3 initiatives. We also did a virtual boarding pass for ANA, the airline. And the idea was that if you participated and received this token, you would be able to have early access to ANA's metaverse that they're building at the moment. We also worked with Ambush for sort of a raffle ticket idea, where if you attend in-person events, you get Ambush tokens, and then these let you enter a raffle to win sort of up-and-coming fashion drops. We've also done pretty cool stamp rally scavenger hunt around Shibuya with sort of supported by Shibuya City last year, where you could sort of pick up these digital stickers all around Shibuya for a couple of weeks. And we've also done some sort of autograph digital signature style projects for people like Keisuke Honda, the soccer player, where if you meet him, you get a digital signature, and this is proof of meeting and is sort of unique to you. Yeah, Shibuya City's been very supportive of us since the very beginning. And when I was talking to Shiho a while back, she mentioned that sort of Shibuya Up could help from being able to verify who's part of the program and who should therefore get access to the resources of the program. And then also she wanted to have members of the program be able to be sort of plug into other ecosystems seamlessly. So I guess at that point, we said an on-chain digital membership sort of system would make a lot of sense, primarily because you can issue them very easily in a verified way. So that's sort of concretely, you would give out unique links or unique QR codes in a welcome email. And then that's sort of a verified way for them to be able to get this membership. And then it's very easy to verify who has that membership, both online and offline, with this sort of a system called token gating, which can be set up very quickly. And then also, I think, given that it's on-chain, these memberships can then plug into all these other ecosystems very seamlessly. So if, for instance, Shiho would like to reward up members in the Ambush ecosystem, that would be very easy to do. They could sort of plug into the raffle system that we've already created for Ambush. And so the opportunities there are very immense. But yeah, that's sort of a bit about us and how we've been working with Shibuya, and sort of very grateful for the opportunity to speak today.
That's great, Gen. Thank you very much for your comments. Can I ask a follow-up question before we go on?
Sure.
So how does your business model work?
Yes.
Is it a subscription basis for the Yeti community, or is it primarily going to be creators of NFTs or selling NFTs?
Yeah, we have a few different revenue streams at the moment. We provide sort of custom contracts for large enterprise.
Okay.
And sort of the general concept is that you get a factory pass, which is a one-off payment, and that gives you access to the factory. And then beyond that, for like, it's a transaction-based model. So we would take 20% of the sort of primary sale, and then 5% of the secondary sales. So any sort of secondary sales that happen after that,
okay,
always have a percentage based. But yes, at the moment, we're sort of more focused on the enterprise contracts. And I think that's sort of what we got.
And have you found that Japan is quite receptive to this kind of blockchain-based idea. I mean, how would you compare the situation over on this side, the California side of the Pacific, to Tokyo?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been very lucky in that timing wise, the government is really pushing for Web3. And so that's sort of a lot of the leaders of enterprise are looking to the government to sort of direct strategy. And so we've been able to sort of, I guess, enter at the right time. And sort of a lot of brands are reaching out to us as there's not a lot of local providers, I think, to help with this area. There's international providers, but a lot of these brands prefer a more local company that they can work with frequently and meet with frequently. So I think we're sort of uniquely positioned in that way.
Thank you. That's great for now. Shiho, I don't mean to be taking away your podium, but you know, this is great so far. Thank you. I think we can go on and ask Tania to tell us about Tellus. Tania, the floor is yours.
Great, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Tania Koch. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Tellus. I started Tellus a few years ago with my co-founder, Kevin Shu. We actually met on campus. So I'm here virtually, but really miss being at Stanford. So enjoy every moment. We really started Tellus with this hope of bringing new technology to elder care and with a mission to improve health outcomes for our growing aging population. We're really inspired by our own challenges, helping our aging family members, really our grandparents, look for suitable technology. For both of us, we were the techie people in our families, and we tried everything from personal emergency response systems to wearables, and really nothing worked. So we thought this is a worthy area to explore. There's a lot of white space, and we should apply our technology backgrounds to build something better and do something meaningful. So yeah, we use technology, and in this case, the base technology we use is radar technology to improve health outcomes. And our first product at Tellus is what you see on this slide. And that's also my hand, so it's quite small. We embed radar inside a piece of hardware, which we actually manufacture in Japan. And our product, you plug it in the wall, and it will understand the health of a person in a room without any wearables or cameras. The type of information we understand includes sleep, wake up activity, time spent in the room. We put Tellus in the bathrooms. We can do fall detection, understand bathroom visits. Our philosophy as founders is really around having meaningful data and actionable data. So all the information we're gathering really has an action. So, you know, if we're noticing a lot of wake ups in the middle of the night, that could indicate a fall risk. And, you know, there's a lot on the preventative side, and we're very, very passionate about that. I think a really key thing to note is that our technology is non-contact, so there's no wearable or no camera. So I'd mentioned that, but it's pretty incredible the information we can get with our Tellus devices. And there's a lot of technology that goes into that. We've built a pretty heavy tech stack. Everything is in-house, from chip design, radar firmware, cloud, and machine learning. So there's quite a lot of technology in our product. We validated our technology. We have validated our technology in Japan. We've gone to market in facilities as our initial market. And we're really expanding and growing in the aging in place. So really bringing our technology into the home. That's how Shiho and I really met, is we want to introduce our technology into the Shibuya ward. And as someone who we have a team in Japan. I spend a lot of time in Tokyo. I've lived there. And I think most of you and myself included think of Shibuya as a really young, vibrant city, and it completely is, but there are a lot of elders there too. So, within Japan, we really want to make an impact. And I think aging in place is just inevitable. We have a growing aging population, a really severe care worker shortage. That's just gotten so much worse during COVID. And Japan is getting really hit hard with this. And so we've raised money from investors in Japan, including University of Tokyo Edge Capital, NTT Docomo, Digital Garage, who's very active in Shibuya. And we're just, a team that's really passionate about elder care. This is the love of my life is building technology and in this space. And and I feel really grateful to be a founder that's in the US, but also operating in Japan. So our team is kind of fluid in that way. Me and Kevin spend a lot of time in Japan. And we're a team of about 15 people. So in the next few months, you'll see some announcements. We have some really exciting projects coming up, especially around aging in place. And so hope to launch more with Shiho directly and really expand beyond that into Japan. And one last thing I'll note is that the AARP is one of our investors. So we do have some presence here as well, but really our focus is Japan, and we do plan to bring our product to market in the US next. I didn't prepare that many slides, but hopefully that's okay. And I give it back to Shiho. Yeah,
that's
thanks.
great, Tania. And before I give it back to Shiho, I have a follow-up question for you that was asked to me by direct message on chat.
Oh, great.
So the health of using the radar communications and so forth, what kind of safety protocols have you all gone through, and how did you make sure that this is not hurting the people in the room?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it's a very safe technology. You can imagine it like Wi-Fi, the waves that come out of your Wi-Fi router. It's the power levels for radar about 100 times less than that. So you can think of that as a safety scale. We do all the certifications around that. So in Japan, it's quite rigorous. We have GITECHI certifications, which are the electricals. And in terms of testing, we've done a number of testing against gold standard, polysomnography and things of that nature. So yeah, we're really, confident in that area, but that's a great question.
Okay. So let me turn things back to Shiho and ask Shiho a question that's already come in on chat too. The question is from one of our viewers who is talking to Singapore about setting up in Singapore, but would really rather live in Japan. But he asks if you accept applications from other areas of business besides the ones that you had mentioned in your slide. So specifically pre-seed retail/logistics.
Well, thanks for the question. We don't really, submit the application and we'll see. We look for why Japan in the application, and the sectors that I mentioned in the presentation, Web3, AI, aging, society problems. These are the things that are very unique to Japan. And for these categories, I think it makes sense for you to be in Japan for business reason. But retail logistics, dependent on what you do specifically, it might make sense for you to be in Japan. So we care a lot about you thriving anywhere you go. And if Japan is a market to do so for you, then that's great.
Okay, so you're kind of answering one of the questions that I had for you. And that is, what are the kind of real things that make a company appropriate for Shibuya startup KK as opposed to something else. So there has to be a good reason for going into Japan. That's one. What would you kind of expect from a company? What kind of, in terms of level of funding or in terms of, what their growth plan is? How does this work? Can you tell a little bit about the conditions?
Sure. Yeah. So a little bit of background might help. So upon taking this job, I came back from the US where I lived. And I lived in Silicon Valley as well as Washington, D.C., where ARP, the organization that Tania mentioned, ARP invests in startups as well, and they were based in Washington, D.C. And I definitely did bump into people who work there and talked about startups. So my background, I guess professional background, was somewhat of a hybrid between Japan and the US and Europe, and I worked in Africa as well. So it's all mixed. And coming back to Japan, I didn't know what the startup landscape really looked like after being gone for a decade. And so I pretty much learned this from our applicants from all over the place. And as I said, half of the applications were from the US and 1/3 was from Europe and a little bit less than that. Well, sorry, Asia was predominantly 40%, US 30%, and Europe 25% or so. And those people told me what they think of Japan, and our team pretty much learned from the applicants. And I think a lot of applicants told us certain verticals, as well as like certain technology verticals, are very good in Japan. So we're sort of like learning from the applications.
Okay. Have another question about another, how interested are you or is the program in areas of food innovation, kind of circular economy, sustainability?
Are you asking if Japan is a good market for these things?
And if Shibuya startup thinks that this is something that would be good for you all.
Circular economy for sure, because Japanese market had Mercari, which is sort of like a secondary P2P selling platform. And I think luxury market is huge here and people tend to buy secondhand. So I had a couple of applicants who's from the US that are trying to do that, like a secondhand P2P selling platform for luxury bags, Chanel bags, or what have you. And they said organically they got traction in Japan and they kind of wanted to, they had the pulse, they saw the pulse in Japan, so they wanted to come here. So that sort of business is very aligned to unique cultural aspects of Japan, I think.
Okay. So that's good. I'm getting the kind of general sense that if you make a good case for your company, you can apply to Shibuya Startup. It doesn't have to be something that's already pre-specified. And that involves doing a little bit of looking around, understanding what the situation is in Japan. Let me kind of throw that sort of question first to Gen and then to Tania. Gen, how did you know that going into Japan would be a good thing for Callback? Did you, how did you do your market research before you got here? Have you been surprised since you got to Japan?
It was a little bit of like right place, right time, I suppose. But my initial sort of motivation to come to Japan was my affinity for the culture. I'm half Japanese, so my family is based here. I guess we sort of just latched onto the Web3 industry here at the right time. And so that was sort of why it made sense.
So you were already pretty familiar with the situation in Japan before you really got involved.
Yeah, I sort of had quite a I guess, exposure to a Japanese upbringing and understood the culture. I guess my initial concern was that it would be hard to sort of crack into the Japanese market. But I guess we found that sort of Japanese corporations and recently the government as well are very supportive of new technologies. And so that was very promising for us, I think. And I guess with time, it's just sort of gotten better and better. So I think.
Did you have any trouble convincing anybody else in your team that Japan was the place?
Yeah, so my co-founder was my roommate at Stanford. And he had sort of not really spent any time in Japan. He's from Minnesota. So it took probably 2 or 3 months to convince him to move to Japan. But I think now everything's smooth sailing.
Yeah, okay. Tania, I'm kind of curious for you. So the US has got a lot of old people too. And, it's a growing market in a lot of different countries. What was it that sort of led you to pick, in some ways, Japan first, right? That's really your first big market.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the US is interesting. There are a lot of elders here, certainly a big issue. By proportion population, it's about 15%, whereas in Japan it's 30%. So that's a pretty big difference. We had an early investor, Phil Libin. He was founder of Evernote, and a pretty well-known company that a while ago, they did really well in Japan market. And so when he invested, that was part of, when Kevin and I started, we really were interested in Japan, actually. But breaking into the market is not easy. And I think it takes the right network and support. And I think that's actually really why what Shiho is doing is really important. It will help connect more US companies into Japan. But it's a really incredible story. Just, we went to Tokyo with Phil and his team and just started pitching some companies, and the reception was really incredible. We raised a seed round shortly thereafter, and really raised from Japanese investors. And so that was kind of the base for us. I would recommend, I think, for if you are a startup you don't have to go the fundraising path, but if you do the venture capital path, certainly having Japanese venture capitalists in your corner will certainly help on the network side and with credibility as well. We're just like 2 Americans in Tokyo, so it helps a lot to have that backing.
Can I ask a follow-up? So Japan is basically a single payer health insurance system. Is that good for you, or does that actually mean that it's more complicated because basically the government's there everywhere you look?
Yeah, it's so interesting. That's certainly another big reason why we're in Japan. They basically there's 2 main areas of subsidies related to care, and that's tied into the single payer health system you're talking about. The first is prefecture level subsidies that are given to facilities every year, and they help pay for the cost of technology. And really the technology is called care robot technology. So we're a certified care robot. And so that certification process, I think, just to share a really key difference between getting subsidized by Medicare in the US versus in Japan. In the US, you typically have to be an FDA approved device, so medical device, which is a pretty high bar for any startup. In Japan, the issue is so pressing, they've lowered that bar. The equivalent of the FDA in Japan is called the PMDA. And so it's a lower bar. to be a care robot, there's still some rigor, but not, 4 years of research or such. It doesn't always have to be that, but sometimes the costs are really high in the US as well to get even, the most base level of FDA approval. So that's a really key thing. And then just one other, there's for the care insurance for individuals. If you're a certified care robot, you can also be subsidized for individual care. So for this aging in place, which is pretty key and critical. I'm making it sound like it's super straightforward. It's not completely like everything
I
at
bet. Yeah.
government. We're actually hoping maybe, with Shibuya City, I think if we can figure it out and crack that, I think, on a smaller scale through a city ward, I think that could really be a model for how innovation can be kind of brought to market in Japan more broadly. So, yeah. Great
I think
point.
that's a really interesting point. Shiho, over to you. Kind of the question from Andrew is how the services provided by Shibuya Startup Support are different from what a company might get from some other organization like JETRO, the Japan External Trade Organization. So you're very different, but how do you see Shibuya Startup as distinctive?
Thanks for the question. Well, I do not know in depth about what JETRO does. I looked more into like a startup accelerators, like Y Combinator or other players in the market to sort of build ours. But then again, I understand JETRO is somewhat similar to Shibuya Startup Support, which is the public sector version of my company, and more fundamental. And so
Okay, but I have to say one thing.
Yeah.
And that is my understanding is that the program run by JETRO really is, I thought, in the opposite direction, helping Japanese entrepreneurs go overseas and get kind of accelerator experiences over here. Do they have one for foreign entrepreneurs coming into Japan?
Do JETRO?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Because I think one of the fundamental things about them is everything they've done has been programs. For instance, now they have a partnership with U.S. Market Access Center in San Francisco to bring groups over here and teach them, how to do a good quality startup. But, I see from Andrew that nowadays JETRO is focusing more and more on startups looking to come into Japan. So, okay, that
I should look into that. Tania mentioned about Japan's regulations being unique to, like advantageously unique to certain medical players, startups. I hear that from quite a few entrepreneurs in age tech. So maybe that's there's something there. Just a comment to what Tania said.
Okay. So what kind of things can you do that a typical, like government incubator wouldn't do? Because one thing that's worth noting is that Shibuya Startup Support, KK, is a private sector for-profit company where some of the stock is owned by the city of Shibuya, but the other investors, as you mentioned, are groups like Tokyo Estate and some of the other big companies, right?
So your question was, what are the things that?
Yeah, that you can do that would be different from a different kind of accelerator because you're private sector.
Right. I think we consider ourselves as kind of like a hybrid because we are partially owned and powered by the Shibuya City and their resources. Okay. So we're not completely private or public.
Okay.
Great place to be because we can really provide the resources that the city comes in with, and they wanted to sort of like start investing more. That's why the private sector got involved with the external investors. So we consider ourselves as like a hybrid. And specifically, I guess, like what can we do as a hybrid accelerator? Well, I think the network, and we can sometimes sort of like we're trying to get like a special zoning approval from by working with the government. So that's big. So that sort of stuff, I guess. Sorry, it's not a straight answers, but
Shiho,
No,
can
that's
I
good. Go ahead, Tanya.
can I say, so we're part of Jetro and now we're joining Shibuya Startups, and I think at Jetro, they're really awesome. They have some office space and they have connections to really big companies. I view it like if we're going to Jetro, we may ask for an introduction to Shibuya City. So we may like ask for an introduction to Shiho, who can help really get our product like into a test bed. And so I think what's really cool about Shibuya Startups is that it's an ecosystem within Shibuya City Ward to get some testing, like an immediate like test bed and feedback on, if you're really kind of connected into that like city ward. And I think that's just like of a different, it's not, I don't want to say anything. It's, I love Jetro and I'm a super supporter. And so, but it's just to say it's kind of a different value and a really important value for a startup.
Okay, thank you. So I've got a question both for you and for Gen, and this has to do with one of the classic problems of doing business in a distributed way, a remote fashion, human resources. How do you handle that situation? And Tanya, why don't you stay on, and then Gen, about, what kind of people are you looking for in Japan? Have you had a hard time finding them? What's the situation?
Yeah, so our team is between the US and Japan. It's been that way pre-pandemic. In the pandemic, we decided to be more remote. In Japan, we have kind of like clusters of teams. We have our hardware team together. They get together quite often. We, in the US, have our ML machine learning team. It's very similar. And so we kind of try to cluster as much as we can by location. And just generally, like I've shifted my hours, and I think just, with the flexibility of a little bit more remote and kind of between two countries, comes sort of like, it could be positive or negative. It depends who you are. And so, but kind of working different hours. And for me, it works like incredibly well. And same for some other teammates. And, it's not perfect, but I think we've really found a great blend, and we've been able to work really well and grow well while being remote in COVID, because we were kind of set up that way from the start.
Okay, Gen?
I also just wanted to touch on the previous topic just quickly before I jump in, but I think a large incentive for us to join the program was also to get access to Shibuya as a geography. Sort of billboard spaces and just Shibuya Crossing and all the sort of hotspots, I guess, are very hard to get access to. And sort of the connections of Shibuya Up have made that a lot more reasonable for us to be able to participate. And I think,
if anybody here really doesn't understand kind of the position of Shibuya in the whole kind of world of Japan, it was really ground zero for the first wave of Japanese startups in the late 1990s. And it still has, Google's office in Japan is right there. DNA's office is right there. There's really just about everything you could want within one train station, commuting train station from Shibuya Center. So that makes good sense. Thanks for mentioning that. How's the HR situation for you?
So we're kind of split, and our engineering team is all foreign, but based in Japan. And we tend to work in person, so probably like 4 days a week in person, maybe 1 day a week remote. we find that that is helpful. And then we have sort of so myself and the other co-founder sort of focus a bit more, I guess myself on product, but the other co-founder more on sales. But we kind of bridge the engineering team and the sales team. And the sales team is Japanese, sort of native. So that kind of dynamic, I think, is really important to be able to bridge. We've had, it's been a little bit challenging trying to find higher engineering talent here. To be frank.
You mentioned they're all foreign. How did you find them? Were they outside Japan and then they moved, or did you hire them in Japan?
A bit of both.
All above the above.
Yeah. But there are some sort of emerging coding boot camps that really focus on bringing foreign engineers or people that are interested in engineering to Japan to then learn how to code and then enter a Japanese company. And I think those are starting to be really helpful for startups looking for engineers in Japan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shiho, I have a question from somebody that came to me as a direct message about the goal of your program. As you're helping the companies to grow, do you want them to focus on getting Japanese VC money, or is the goal to actually bring in more foreign VCs to invest in these companies in Japan?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So at the moment, we don't really have like concrete goals specified, and we were really trying to like see the pulse and where this is going. And the ultimate goal, the initial goal, was to create a global startup community in Shibuya. And how does that look like in the way that the community actually pushes the industry in Japan forward? And we're getting a lot of applications. Like Tania's company, she could be based out of the US, but doing something very meaningful and relevant to Japan. And they decided to double down on the investment in Japan. So we have a lot of companies, for instance, the generative AI companies, they're not at all like based in Japan, but then they found pulse in Japan. Organically, they just found users coming to their products from Japan, and they decided to come check out the market and then decided to grow here in Japan. And are they directly getting money from Japanese VCs? Not really, but we're still happy for them to come to Japan and execute in Japan. So execution in Japan and your success in Japan matters to us because it's good for the entire ecosystem. So we don't really have that metric. So we have to receive Japanese investments, or you have to physically be based and incorporated in Japan, especially for this early days.
So it's really the contributions of the company to the economy rather than, what kind of investment they attract.
Yes.
Okay, I've got a question for all of you. Japan has a terrible reputation with regard to entrepreneurship, right? It's supposed to be the place that's dreary and too slow to get anything done and, not pleasant to work in and all those kind of things that entrepreneurs leave companies in order to do. Start with Shiho. What would you tell people about Japan to really help them understand the situation there now? How would you describe it?
Yeah, so I hear that all the time. Japan is kind of a depressing place to be, period. Besides the fact that the food is good and you can ski and that's the only thing that's going for us is the narrative I get preached every day, especially from those people who don't live here. But I think Japan is still the number 3 economy in the world. And I have entrepreneurs who are not even here every day coming to me to tell me that they see this pulse in Japan, and pulse not just a user growth, but revenue. Like people for certain verticals like VTubers or even recently K-pop music artists, Japanese people pay more for the same products is what I hear over and over. even when the traction is gone elsewhere, Japan still has Japanese consumers are mature enough to show up with money. So that's a monetizable huge economy factor is still there. And a lot of entrepreneurs want to be here in Japan because Japan is seen as the market for inspirations. And I think Japan for sure is a single language monocultural market, and it might be smaller than the US or China. But then again, there are a lot of unique perspectives and innovation inspirations that are very unique to Japan. So I know some of the founders that are considered Silicon Valley tier 1 founders come to Japan and get inspirations, and they code away here for 6 months and they go home and they just have new features built out of Japan launching to the world. I hear those stories quite often as well. And I think regulations, when it comes to now, everyone is talking about generative AIs and it's super exciting. Japan's copyright is very interesting. Like regulations or lack of it is very interesting to some of the founders. And a lot of generative AI application layer founders are coming to Japan for the reasons that I mentioned in my presentation. Japanese copyright regulation lets you learn the data, like no, in a way, like data is not protected. So everyone can come in, learn the data, and then build products out of it. That's another layer of this lack of protection around the data to be misused. But then again, it is one reason why people come to Japan to sort of grow their business if you're running like AI-based businesses. What else? And even for Web3, I think culturally there is a very good sort of uniqueness, like unique fit Japan in the Web3 community, I feel. We just hosted Bright Moments in Shibuya. Bright Moments is an art and technology, like a festival event. And they sell NFT art and AI generative art there. And I heard the amount that the event made from the sales of art. That was a lot of money. So in number, we feel good about sort of the fit between the Web3 art NFT community and Japan. And I think, as I mentioned again in my presentation, Web3 prep to winter and all these turmoil in the industry has been like not as hitting Japan in a different way, in a good way. Yeah, so there are a lot of things, factors that's unique to Japan that you should look into if you're an entrepreneur in certain sectors.
Again, from your perspective, was there anything about actually getting started a couple of years now, right? Getting the company started and going in Japan that surprised you, that was different than you expected it to be?
It was a lot lonelier than I thought it was initially, like at the very beginning. Yeah, to be frank, I think there were I could count on my hands how many foreign entrepreneurs or like entrepreneurs doing startups around my age that were around me. But I mean, with programs like Shibuya, hopefully that you can sort of bring them together. But I think at the same time, we saw that as a tremendous opportunity, and that there's a lot of vested interest in Japan from US-based investors. So our lead investor was Sozo Ventures, who sort of really try to bridge between Japan and the US. And so I think there's like a good cohort of investors and people that want to support ventures in Japan. So I think sort of if you brave that loneliness initially, if you're starting out here, quite quickly you'll find a really a big support network that want to have a vested interest in trying to help you succeed here.
Okay. Before we go to Tania, I have a follow-up question for you, and it comes from Jacqueline, one of the students in the class. Does the fact that the engineers are foreign have an impact on how potential customers or other people in Japan would feel about trusting your company? Or does it really matter as long as the product is good? The whole kind of, foreigner versus Japan distinction. Do you find that people are having a hard time sitting across the table from you in business negotiations or in other kinds of situations because of the kind of foreign nature of your company?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that, but and I think our product looks quite Western, just from design principles. But I think, yeah, I mean, it's definitely very important to have a native Japanese salesperson, especially if you're doing sort of larger enterprise deals. I think there's sort of no going around that for now, but I think it'll change, and sort of the structure there might change in the near future. But for now, I think it's the engineers and who builds the product can be quite foreign, but who's selling it and who sort of helps support needs to be quite native in Japanese.
Sure, and a lot of that has to do with the power of being able to work from the native position in the language and the culture.
Right.
Sales really needs to have incredible local knowledge. Tania, how about for you? Since getting started with Tellus, how has your opinion of Japan changed since you've been involved with this? How do you see the situation for entrepreneurs in Japan now?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I think overall the community of startups is small, and entrepreneurs, but that also makes it kind of special compared to maybe Silicon Valley. But there are benefits to both. But I think it's really, really special. Our team culture is really reflects that kind of like tight-knit community. And so, yeah, I'm really like proud of our team and who we've hired. And I think from that perspective, it's been really great. There's some like efficiency things as well, like getting to great engineers. There are many ways to get to them in the US, of course, but there's actually like 2 Twitter accounts where we've hired a couple people off of. Again, I'm happy to share with you after this. Yeah, no, it's been like pretty cool in that way, and because it's a tight-knit network, we get really strong referrals that way, and so there are a lot of benefits to that as well. I think I'm lucky in having Phil and his GM of his former or his company, All Turtles, Ken Inoue. Actually, Ken is the person who introduced me to Shiho. So like these are the kind of how the world goes around of these really special connections kind of go deeper and deeper. And I would say that's pretty much how I feel about Japan. Is a really special place. And I've always had a really strong connection to Japan from a young age, and had an interest, and just, it's grown tremendously. For our market, it's a really clear place to be. And I think kind of, for aging and healthcare, it's a great first market. Most companies reach out to me in the US because we validated. In Japan, it's like a mark of, quality, and a mark of sort of you've done it well in the right market first. So now we want it. That makes sense.
Okay. Got a follow-up question for you, Tania.
Sure.
Do you speak Japanese?
Not very well, but I'm doing my best. And but we have a GM in Japan and a team, like Gen mentioned, like having a salesperson who, of course, is Japanese and can be your insider. That's really, really important. And so
Yeah, okay. And Gen, how about you? Do you speak Japanese?
Uh, yeah, but it's a little bit too casual. I sort of learned it from my mom, so
Okay, in the family Japanese. Yeah.
it doesn't really work in business meetings. So I'm more of a fly on the wall there.
Okay. Uh, Shiho, do you think that language, how do you use language in considering foreign startup companies? Do you think that's something that entrepreneurs should do before they apply to your program or?
Actually, no, I feel in a team, of course, you have to have someone who speaks Japanese, especially in like biz dev or sales. But then again, when it comes to my program, I guess come to do what you're best at doing already. And it doesn't have to necessarily involve speaking Japanese yourself. In fact, a lot of startups that Tania again already were rooted in Japan and had traction in Japan, but we have a lot of applicants that we love that don't speak Japanese at all. I'm not even sure if they're interested. But I definitely see a lot of Taiwanese founders who are bilingual. I don't know how they do it, but they're fluent. So it's interesting to see that as well. Surprisingly, we find out that people speak some Japanese. But it's not a requirement at all, I don't think.
Okay. Jerry asks a question for you, and that is about benefits for Shibuya Startup KK's private investors. So they're expecting some sort of capital gain or strategic benefit. What do you think are the benefits that they will receive?
Oh, you mean the big companies who
Yeah,
support
that
it?
have invested funds in Shibuya Startup KK.
Sure. So I think their initial thing was to support what's called the extension of Shibuya Startup Support, which is again a public sector initiative. And a lot of companies were actually the three companies that initially invested in us and the others who expressed the interest to do so, with them were based out of Shibuya. And they knew what this project was and what sort of team we're building, and they were really excited. So it was quite easy for them to agree upon the vision that we're building, the future that we wanted to see in our local town, Shibuya. So that was there already. So it was less financially incentivized. We sort of thought this is a meaningful thing to do, and we have what it takes to do it. And let's get together and collect our resources and see what we can do. So our investors and like us, we're really like a one team. We speak on a regular basis, weekly, and they help us a lot. So yeah,
Okay.
sure if that answers your question, but
Yeah, so let me ask you what you see as your vision for the future of Shibuya Startup KK.
Yeah, well, as you heard from my presentation, I'm kind of like collecting data and making conclusions and learning. So there's that bottom up sort of like, what could this be? What's real and what's not? But when it comes to vision, I want to see more Gens and Tanias of the world coming to Shibuya. And I think it's really aligned with what they're trying to do. So whether it's elderly care, as Tania already said, Japan is like aging society, and I think it's half of us are over 60 already in Japan, and that stats probably is like 15% or 20% in the US in comparison. So it's a pressing issue that she's working on, and we need help in solving that, wherever you're from, whoever you are. And we need someone like Gen who are very talented coming into Japan. So our sort of mission originally was like diversity and building some community of people who really believe in doing the right thing and solving the real problems in the world. And for Japan, it looks like aging of the society, or what do we with the economy, or lack of talent, or lack of diversity in the society. So we kind of build our visions around those problems that we see pressing.
Okay. Again, for you, how do you see Japan versus other world markets for your company in the future? Do you think you're going to be integrated and worldwide real fast, or do you think that you'll develop Japan first in kind of a more traditional way and then develop other big markets one at a time?
I think probably the latter, with being overwhelmed with like the layers and just how deep the IP is here. There's so much opportunity, I think, especially for this Web3 space, which is sort of putting culture onto the blockchain. For now, I think we're pretty set on just staying here and seeing if it scales internationally later, maybe. But yeah.
Okay. And Tanya, how about you? Same question.
We really see ourselves growing in aging in place as like a next, version of our product, going in Japan first and then bringing that to market in the US. So we want to go right into the home. I think that's really the heart of why we started Tellus, and that's kind of where we hope to have we're working on some really exciting things. So please follow our updates, and I hope to share some really good news in the next coming months around that.
I'm looking forward to that. I think that both of what you're doing, Gen and Tanya, are really exciting things. And I definitely look forward to seeing what will happen from now. Shiho, do you have any kind of final comments? We're getting down to the very last few minutes in our session. So maybe for everybody, if there's one last thing you'd like to tell everybody, now's the chance. Shiho, you first.
Okay, I'm not prepared with the final remarks, but please check out the website, apply, refer startups. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Gen?
I see there's one question here that says convincing US-based friends.
I missed that one. Sorry. Thank you. Good for catching it.
I'm totally convinced you can convince US-based friends to come based on food. It's worked 2 times out of 2 so far.
It's the food. Okay. Tanya?
I guess my closing remark would be that it takes a lot of courage to go to market somewhere like you're not non-native. But I think Japan is building a really great ecosystem to help people like myself, and again, to really establish. And so I encourage you to reach out to people like us and Shiho, and if you're interested or curious, like really deeply think about it. It's a really incredible country, and there's a great fit for your product and an idea or company. Pursue it.
I think that's great. And that's a great note for us to conclude today's program on. I want to thank all 3 of you, Shiho, Gen, Tanya, for sharing your, experiences with us and your thinking and so forth. It's been an enlightening session. Thanks to all of you. Everybody, please join me in saying thanks.